Welcome, everyone, to this month's Veterans Briefing. We'll get started in just a few minutes. If you are here with a Veterans Service Organization, it would be great if you could share your name and which organization you're here with. And if you served in the military, we'd also appreciate it if you're comfortable sharing which branch of service you were with and your era of service. Welcome, everyone, again to this month's Veterans Briefing. We'll get started in just a minute. Again, if you're with a Veterans Service Organization, please share your name and which organization you're representing. And if you served in the military, we'd appreciate it if you're comfortable sharing your name and branch of service, and also which era of service you're with. It looks like we have Kevin here who served in the Navy in the Gulf War era. Thank you for your service, Kevin. All right, welcome everyone again to this month's Veterans Briefing. Again, if you're with a Veterans Service Organization, we'd appreciate it if you could share your name and which organization you're representing in the chat. And if you served in the military, we'd also appreciate it if you're comfortable sharing which branch of service and your era of service. Trudy, did you want to go ahead and get started?
Yeah, I think there's a couple more slides coming through here. As you can see, Empath Health proudly hosts a variety of coffee groups around Pinellas County. We would love it if you are a veteran or a veteran service organization, if you would like to join us at any of these. It is a fabulous opportunity for veterans to meet and connect with other veterans, as well as identify services and resources in the community. The screen, an exciting event coming up. Please mark your calendars. If you are a Vietnam era veteran or a supporter, March 29th, 2023 marks the 50th commemoration of the last troop being withdrawn from Vietnam. And we will be hosting a ceremony at the city of Dunedin and Pioneer Park to thank all of our Vietnam era veterans and welcome them home. So we welcome all Vietnam era veterans, all veterans and community supporters to join us on March 29th in Dunedin. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen here, a tool if you want to queue up the PowerPoint. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Trudy Beeler. I am the Veteran Community Partnership Specialist for Empath Health. Our most well-known program is Suncoast Hospice. We've been providing hospice services and end-of-life support for patients and families in Pinellas County for over 40 years. And I have the pleasure of being the Veterans Community Partnership Specialist. That's a fancy title that just means that I'm out there meeting and making connections to veterans in our community, as well as to veteran service organizations and programs, so that we are best serving our veterans and their families with their needs. As I mentioned, we do the coffee groups. We do these briefings every month. So I'm so thrilled that we have Heather from the VA today and Judy from our Empath Health team to talk about a really amazing concept of healthcare. And I can share with you, and I just did with Heather, When I'm in these coffee groups, I oftentimes have veterans coming to the group, waving the whole health brochure saying, oh my gosh, you guys need to check this program out. So I'm really thrilled to bring it to the community today. And Heather, if you'd like to unmute and introduce yourself, and we will get going.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your service. Veterans have a special place in my heart. So again, thank you for all you have done for us. So my name is Heather Ruiz. I am the supervisor for the Recreation Creative Arts Therapists here at Bay Pines VA. I am also currently the acting supervisor for our whole health coaches, and we work with our whole health care program. The program has been in existence since about 2020. We kind of came in and then COVID hit and then put an interesting spin on our programming. But we have learned that virtual programming is just as effective as in-person programming. So I have been with Bay Pines VA Healthcare since 2005. So I've been here a very long time. So we're excited to kind of expand and offer our services. And thank you to everybody who's talking about our programs. Keep doing it. Keep promoting us. Okay. All right. Well, go ahead and get started. Next slide, please.
Right, just having a little glitch here.
I can talk, but I'll just go out
There
of
it
order.
Is that okay there, Heather?
That's
We're on the right one?
perfect.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So if you haven't heard of whole health, what is it? Really, it's just a fancy term, and really bringing the forefront of, I don't want to say alternative programming, but programming more focused around you and what matters to you and improving your overall health and wellness to live a better life. Okay. So when you're coming into the program, and there's various ways to get into our program, you can call us directly. I can get our number out to you guys, and I think our number is on on the slide and one of the end slides here. You can have your primary care or any provider here send a consult to Whole Health Services, or you can basically just walk in and say, "Hi, I want services," and we will hook you up. Okay. You'll come in, you'll be assigned a whole health coach, a health and wellness coach. They will work with you to get started on finding out what really is important to you at this moment. And then we kind of gear programs around that. So you pick the programs you want, you come in, you'll meet with your coach at least once a month to make sure you're staying on track with your goals and meeting those. And then if another goal comes up, we'll work on you with that. Okay. So next slide. So how are we different from every other services here at within the VA? So you're really in the driving seat of this program. You guys are the ones telling us what matters to you, what's important to you, what do you want? So we're not here to suggest, well, no, you should do this because I think this would be good for you. You tell us what you want. We're here to guide you and modify things so that it is the most effective and impactful service for you. Okay. So we don't focus on a disease. We really focus on the abilities that you have and enhancing on those. And again, just giving you a healthier, happier life. Okay. So we do various things. Our primary focuses are on stress reduction, yoga, Tai Chi, mindfulness. If you want to speak to a dietitian, we have dietitians on stand. Acupuncture, we offer battlefields acupressure, which are magnetic seeds that go on your ear. And then again, we have coaching available. And I will tell you, because people will hear like yoga, Tai Chi, all this, and you think you have to bend like a pretzel. I'm going to tell you, no, you don't. Okay. Any of our stuff is modified to be done from the floor to a chair to standing. Okay. Next slide. So this is our little image that the whole health program follows. So In the center of the circle is me, which is you. But everything revolves around you. Okay. So you're at the center. We need to find out really what matters to you, because sometimes you're just told what to do or guided what to do. And that's really not in line with what's your values are or what you're trying to accomplish. Okay. And then around you is the mindfulness, awareness, and self-care. And those are basically the programs that we offer fit into these categories. So moving the body. For some people, increasing flexibility as we get older. As we get older, we tend to kind of tighten a little bit. So to keep those joints loose and moving, we do have high impact programming. We also have low impact programming, and it doesn't matter. We'll meet you where you're at. We focus on surroundings, and how to enhance your surroundings, both physically and emotionally, personal development, food and drink, recharge, which kind of focuses on improving sleep patterns, improving relationships with family, friends, and coworkers. Maybe reconnecting to spirit and soul, whether you're wanting to get back into religion or you're just wanting to find something more spiritually for you. And then power of the mind. And then we have what helps us get there is professional care. So you'll have, and I'm going to go over the staffing in a minute, but you'll have a group of various disciplines here to help you on your journey to make sure we're giving you a healthier lifestyle. And then we also want to encourage everyone to reconnect with their communities, because as great as the VA is, we know that everybody lives outside of the VA, and we really want you guys to be engaging and connecting outside of our walls. And we're here to give you the skills and tools to be able to effectively do that. Okay, next slide. So who are you going to encounter if you come into Whole Health? We have whole health psychologists here. We have recreation therapists. We have art therapist and a music therapist. We have our whole health coaches. We have a whole health partner, and we have dietitian. Next slide. So where can you find whole health within Bay Pines, VA? Every location that we service. Okay, so at our main campus here in St. Petersburg, Bay Pines, the CWY Bill Young Center, and at all of our community-based clinics. So I apologize, I didn't correct that, but it's actually North Pinellas now. St. Petersburg, Bradenton, Sarasota, Sebring, Lee County, Port Charlotte, and Naples are all of our locations and community-based hospitals or clinics that we service, and you'll find whole health within all of those. All right, next slide. Okay, this is the best part, you guys. It's free. Who doesn't like free? Come on. Okay, so any of our programs that you come into are free. I'm going to tell you that they will be time limited. We can't keep people here forever. We have a lot of veterans that are wanting to come through, but any of the programs you engage with within Whole Health are free services to you. We put out a quarterly brochure. Sometimes there are minor changes and sometimes there are big changes to it. So we're actually working on our April through June brochure. So if you're interested and you have secure messaging, you might be able to message us that way, or you can just stop in, and we try to stock all of our primary care areas with these flyers. So you should be able to get them there as well. And Trudy has asked for them, so I'm going to get them to her as well. So we have that. All right. Oh, and we offer virtual programming. So no excuses, you can come. And if you're more of an in-person kind of a thing, we are really getting back into the swing of in-person face-to-face programming. So those are options too. All right. So let me talk a little bit about the programming that we do. So our psychologist focused programming, they run improving your sleep. So they will go over tools and techniques on how to improve sleep patterns, tobacco-free programs, transforming your stress, They do a gratitude jumpstart, which is a drop-in type of a group in the mornings. You come in, you get your day started on a positive note. If you get your day started on a positive note, the rest of the day tends to go pretty good. So that's a good group to get started with. VA Calm, which is, kind of more or less like a stress reduction type of a group. Small steps to greater happiness. So we're looking at what's the ultimate goal, what's going to make you happy, and how do we do that, and how do we break that up so that we're seeing the gains as opposed to just looking at the big picture. Living your best life. We offer several different versions of this. This is kind of an overview of whole health. So each session is focused on one of those initial circles that I talked about earlier in our presentation, moving the body, spirit and soul, surroundings. So you'll get a little snippet as to what each area really focuses on. And then we have different variations of that. We have one specific for pain. And then we have a women's only group, and then we just have our regular general population group. Next slide. The recreation therapist programming. We do the bulk of the movement programming. And again, I want to emphasize that don't kind of be fearful of coming into a movement group. The recreation therapists are trained and educated on modifying and adapting any of our groups so that everybody is successful in doing it. So we have an arthritis exercise program. We have a boxing program that I think is going to go on hold because it hasn't been quite as popular. So if you're interested in that, we'll bring it back. Chair stretching, chair strong, which is a kind of like a combination between chair yoga, stretching, and then using some resistance bands with it. We have a group focused on using resistance bands. Strength and core training. We're going to be bringing next quarter some disc golf. So if you're interested in disc golf and you don't know how to do it, reach out to us. Tai Chi and Qigong. We do walking groups. We have various levels of yoga. We do some equine therapy. It is not riding therapy that we're doing. It's all groundwork, but we do offer that. I have paddleball, and it's not paddleball, it's pickleball. So I apologize for that. I had paddleball on my mind. We're going to be doing kind of like a fishing 101 and getting veterans kind of re-engaged or interested in new leisure activities and much more. So our rec therapists are constantly evaluating and changing things up or adding additional programming as needed. Next slide. Our art therapy and music therapy programming. So we have an art and imagery group, a creative writing group, journaling for health and wellness, an open studio, self-discovery through the arts, a wellness through the arts, a women's creative space. We have general music therapy. We have a group on focusing on using music to manage your mood. And then, of course, individual sessions. I do want to let you know that you don't need to be an artist or a musician coming into these. It is not our goal to teach you how to do art or play an instrument, but those are just modalities that we use as a way for you to kind of self-explore yourself and be familiar with yourself and maybe work on some other areas of your life that you've been avoiding or that you didn't really know needed to be addressed. Okay, next slide. Our coaches. So our coaches are primarily done individually. They will meet with you as often as you want. And again, their focus really is to kind of hone in on what matters to you, what's the most important thing for you, and what are the goals and where can we start, and just being a guide for you, being a partner through your journey to finding a happier, healthier life. They do a group called Mind Body Medicine. Again, the battlefield acupressure. There is some group coaching. Some individuals like to kind of be in a group setting, talking about their goals, what got in their way this week, things that they did really well with. And then Stay Strong, which is kind of, I don't want to call it a support group, but it's a group for veterans actively quitting or have quit tobacco use. So that's a group as well. Next slide. All right, our dietitian programming. They offer programming basically to improve your diet. If you're interested on a plant-based nutrition diet, they will help guide you. Meal planning, grocery store tours. They are doing healthy teaching kitchens, and I believe those are done virtually currently. They do a group focused on food and your mood. And then we have a program here, just Move in general, which is a little bit outside of whole health, but it all kind of partners together. Next slide. So how do you get involved? All you have to do is talk to your primary care team and ask them for a consult. If you see a mental health provider, you can ask them for a consult. Basically, any staff here can send a consult referral to Whole Health Services. You can call us directly on our hotline, and the numbers are here for you, and the extensions. Or if you're on campus and you find a sign that says Whole Health and you knock on the door, we'll get you in that way too. All right. Next slide. And really, we hope that, not that I can see anybody, but we hope to see you, and we are excited to be a part of your journey. And that will conclude my presentation part of it. So thank you all so much. And like I said, if you come, say you heard it from Heather.
Thank you, Heather. I knew it was an amazing program, and I've seen the veterans who participate, how engaged they've been with it, but just to see the abundance of services is phenomenal. Just a little plug for the North Pinellas CBOC that is located beside one of our Suncoast Hospice resale stores. And veterans get 50% off their purchases every day with their 25% off with their military ID. So if you like to thrift, those resale stores, which, as I mentioned, is beside the new CBOC in North Pinellas, go back to supporting folks in our community who cannot afford to pay for hospice care or don't have insurance. So that's a great way there. And I did see that Greg Lewis Seals had his hand raised. We are going to hold questions to the end. So Greg, don't worry, we will come back to you. We just want to allow both of our presenters an opportunity to get through the content, and then we'll circle back. So without further ado, let's go to the next slide. And it's my pleasure to introduce Judy Bortness, who is a member of the Suncoast Hospice team here at Empath Health. And Judy, I'll let you unmute and introduce yourself further, and let's dig into the integrative medicine and palliative arts program here at Empath Health.
Trudy, thank you so much. I am really grateful and honored to be here today. I come from a military family with my several generations having served in multiple wars since World War II. And my great nephew has just graduated from Marine officer training and is stationed in Pensacola. So it truly is an honor to be here. And Heather, I have to tell you, that was awesome. I had no idea about the whole health program. I had no idea how many services were offered. Wow, absolutely amazing. So thank you for that. By way of introduction, I have been with hospice for 20 years. Next month will be my 20-year anniversary of having become a hospice volunteer, which ultimately led into my second career. After having been a special educator for 30 years, I became a volunteer coordinator and recruiter. And I have done that up until just recently, when I've stepped into my dream job, which is that of palliative arts coordinator. As a volunteer coordinator, I had the privilege of training Reiki for a lot of volunteers and staff members. And now I get to do that on an almost full-time basis, but not just Reiki, all the palliative arts. And that's what I want to talk with you about today. So if you'll go ahead and advance to the next slide, we'll dive in. There are a lot of words on this slide, but I am going to read it because they're important words. And like Heather, we don't like to use the word alternative, and you'll see why when we look at this together. Integrative medicine is a comprehensive model of healthcare that combines a variety of complementary practices with conventional Western medicine. Rather than being an alternative approach to medicine, it integrates and utilizes the best of all medical worlds. Integrative medicine is informed by evidence-based research and applies therapeutic approaches from various disciplines. Now, I promise not to read to you again, but I wanted to capture all of those words, and most particularly to point out that integrative medicine, palliative arts are not an alternative, but rather an addition, a complementary aspect to Western medicine, and they work beautifully hand in hand. So let's go on to the next slide. And the integrative medicine program, there's actually two prongs I'm going to talk with you about. The first is integrative medicine. The second is palliative arts. But let's talk about our integrative medicine program first. Our mission, obviously, is to serve patients and families of two groups, our Suncoast hospice patients, as well as our palliative care patients. Palliative care patients are those who have not yet met the eligibility criteria for hospice according to Medicare guidelines, but they do indeed have a condition that demonstrates they are declining, and ultimately they will probably become hospice patients. And so they very definitely benefit from palliative services while they're on that journey. So our goal, our mission, is to provide symptom management while enhancing comfort and well-being, utilizing, here's a few more key words, non-invasive, and again, complementary therapies and modalities. One of the people I work with likes to say that our goal is to maximize well-being while minimizing suffering. I think that sums it up very well. On to the next slide, please. So this is a visual, and we'll stay here for a little while because there's several aspects of this first prong, our integrative medicine program you see in the middle. I'm going to start at the top. We provide acupuncture. We have an acupuncture doctor, Dr. Barbara Dobron, who sees palliative care and hospice patients on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and she sees PACE clients on Thursdays and Fridays. Our PACE clients are those that are eligible for nursing home services, but our goal is to keep them out of a nursing home environment and in their own home for as long as possible. So those 4 days of the week, any patient or client who has signed up for an appointment and is capable of either transporting themselves or being transported to our main office on the Roosevelt Boulevard campus in Clearwater, come to what is known as our integrative medicine clinic. And it's a beautiful spa-like setting, if you can imagine, that when our patients come in and they're placed on the massage table and covered with a nice warm blanket, and aromatherapy is in the air and music is in the air. And Dr. Barb places the needles according to whatever their diagnosis or disability or disease process is. While she's doing that, we frequently have Reiki volunteers there as well, who are providing Reiki at the same time the needles are doing their work. So it's very multifaceted, very soothing, very calming. And many of our patients and clients have talked about the easing of symptoms after experiencing a treatment. And typically they're able to come perhaps on a weekly basis for multiple treatments. So that's our acupuncture service. To the right, as we go around the globe, music therapy over to the right-hand side is something we're very pleased to say we have 2 board-certified master's level music therapists, one by the name of Chloe, who serves our North County patients in Pinellas County, and a gentleman by the name of Matt, who serves our South County patients. They are able to provide therapeutic music by virtue of their training And those two individuals are also very supportive of our staff and volunteers who provide a different level of music support that we'll talk about in a few minutes. So going over to I said we were going to go circularly, but I just changed my mind and I'm going to jump across the globe and go to the west, to the left, where it shows massage therapy. We are very blessed to have a massage therapist by the name of Danette, again, certified licensed massage therapist who is also involved with training many of our volunteers and staff members, and something we'll talk about in a minute, but she provides direct massage therapy to a very large caseload of multiple patients throughout the northern half of Pinellas County. So at the bottom, finally, we'll talk about palliative arts, but this is going to segue into our next slide. So if you would, please. There we go. What are palliative arts? We're kind of done talking about integrative medicine now, and we want to talk about palliative arts, which are very gentle, non-invasive, complementary techniques. And again, here's that phrase that one of my colleagues, Julie, liked to utilize, and I borrowed it from her. It is to minimize suffering and maximize well-being. Who could ask for more, right? Our goal is an increased overall sense of well-being, and it can be measured, and we do measure it after every visit. We ask that our volunteers fill out a volunteer visit note. We ask that our staff members document this in our electronic medical record. And what we're asking them to do is monitor, hopefully, a decrease in these 4 symptom areas: pain, nausea, anxiety, and shortness of breath. We report this data on a monthly basis to the Florida Blue organization, which has generously given us a 3-year grant for almost $300,000, which allows us to provide all of these services to our patients free of charge. So on a scale of 1 to 10, we ask our patients at the beginning of a session to tell us about their pain level, their nausea, their anxiety, their shortness of breath. They may not have all 4 symptoms depending on their disease process. They may just have 1 or 2. And that's what we score at both the beginning and the end of the session. Now, a lot of times following a Reiki treatment, for example, our patients might be asleep. Well, we're not going to wake them up to ask for a score, but we do have a box that we can check off the patient was asleep, because clearly that indicates a decrease in whatever those symptoms were that they were experiencing prior to the treatment. Okay, next slide, please. More bubbles. Excellent. So our palliative arts, you see in the middle, and I'm going to start at the top again with guided meditation. This is our newest palliative arts program. We just piloted it in January, and we'll be offering it again in March and so on throughout the year. There's so much about guided meditation out there, and there's so many different ways you could go with developing a guided meditation. But we chose to send one of our very capable volunteers through some very intensive training called iRest, which is based upon yoga nidra. And again, as Heather said, we're not talking about contortions here or positions that are difficult to get into. It's more about the calming, relaxing, restorative effects of guided meditation. So our volunteer went through this training, very intensive training. And then based on that, we've developed something that we think is very appropriate for our hospice patients, our palliative care patients. Not only is it something that the volunteers and staff members can provide in mini sessions to our patients, but it's also something we can train our patients to do for themselves when we're not there with them. We've developed scripts. There's 10 different modules, and they're things like well-being and body sensing and thoughts and feelings and inner resource. So 10 different modules. And depending on the patient's need or inclination, we can choose the most appropriate one. And we've laminated these scripts that the volunteer can take into, or the staff member can take into the patient's home with them and teach the patient how to do that for themselves, which is just a wonderful tool. So that's guided meditation. Moving to the right, aromatherapy. We have developed our own blends here at Suncoast Hospice, Empath Health, that are intended for different symptoms. So for example, if someone's experiencing nausea, there's a specific blend that is particularly helpful, as opposed to just those that are, calming that any of us might enjoy. Those blends are particularly well utilized, as we said, at the Integrative Medicine Clinic, but also in our 3 care centers. We have a care center here in Palm Harbor at the North Pinellas Care Center, formerly known as Brookside. We have another care center mid-county in the Pinellas Park area called Mid-Pinellas Care Center, formerly Woodside. And then our South County care center is a wing located inside Bayfront Hospital. So in those locations where we're serving multiple patients, the volunteers and staff members have access to these essential oils, and they can be utilized with our patients for calming as well as for symptom management. Moving on down around the circle, we come to Reiki. I am a Reiki master, and I have the privilege of training staff and volunteers in multiple levels of Reiki. Reiki is just a very gentle, as we've said, non-invasive form of either hands-on or hands above the body to direct energy to the recipient in such a way that the internal organs, the internal mechanisms of the body begin to heal themselves. Now, we're very careful about how we use the word healing, or we don't use the word healing with our hospice patients. We understand that once an individual has a terminal diagnosis, we're not talking about physical healing per se, but there's all kinds of spiritual healing, emotional healing that can still occur. And there's also symptom management that, as we've discussed before, pain, nausea, anxiety, shortness of breath, we have seen quite frequently with Reiki a minimization of those symptoms and an increase of well-being, particularly when Reiki sessions are given cumulatively, week after week after week. Moving down, you see supportive music. I mentioned earlier, we have 2 music therapists, and they are also very helpful. I was about to say instrumental, but I didn't want to give a terrible pun, but they are very helpful in training staff and volunteers, and training me to share that information with staff and volunteers in our music and caregiving program, where we train our staff to use very specific techniques, and we provide them with MP3 players and speakers for individual use with patients. The MP3 players are downloaded with playlists from different decades and different eras. For example, the 40s, the 50s, the 60s, as well as classical, country, nature sounds, gospel, Broadway, etc. And what we've learned is that individuals tend to relate the most to the music that they enjoyed in their late teens and early 20s. Just think about that yourself. What's your favorite playlist? What do you remember all the words to? What do you automatically want to dance to? What do you sing to without even thinking about the lyrics? They're just right there in your memory bank. So imagine how wonderful it is to pull up songs from the 40s with our patients in their 80s and 90s. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is that each of those playlists on the MP3 player can be played from high to low or from low to high, by which I mean you can start with really an upbeat tempo and lower it to sort of bring someone down into a calming state. Imagine how wonderful that would be with our dementia patients. Or you can start with a much calmer music and elevate the tone and the tempo. And how helpful is that with our patients who might be feeling a depression? So there's a lot that can be done with the playlists, with the MP3 players that are provided by our staff and volunteers in the music and caregiving program. Moving to the left, pet visits. What can I say? We have some of the most beautiful, awesome dogs I've ever seen, but I also know that Alicia will be coming next month to talk about our pet visitation program, our pet peace of mind program. So I don't want to steal her thunder. I will just tell you a really something I never thought I would see as a cat lover. When I first became a volunteer coordinator here at Suncoast Hospice, I was supervising a young lady, one of our teen volunteers, who had a cat who was a certified pet therapy animal. This black, beautiful tuxedo cat was named Bear Bear, and Bear Bear walked on a leash through the nursing homes. I had the privilege of orienting this young lady and Bear Bear and watching how the patients responded to this cat when he got on their laps. I will never forget it. Needless to say, I don't try that with my cats. But moving on up, you see licensed massage therapy, and you think, wait a minute, we already talked about that. Why are we talking about that again? Well, because we have volunteers who are licensed massage therapists who have chosen to bring their skill and talent to our patients in a volunteer capacity. And they see patients perhaps every week. And you, of course, can imagine how wonderful that is. And then concluding with something called Caring Touch. This is taught by our massage therapist to our patients, to our staff and volunteers to provide a very gentle form of hand massage using lotion based on Jin-Shin Jitsu techniques. So enough said about this. Let's move on to the next slide, which I think is just going to summarize what we've seen. It lists some of those things we offer: Reiki, music and caregiving, caring touch, aromatherapy, guided meditation. We've already said all that. So we're going to move on. And I think we're coming up toward the end, which is to say that patients can be referred for any of those palliative arts services through a team member to the volunteer coordinator, who will then assign a volunteer to provide those services. And then the second bullet talks about the fact that we can refer any of our patients who are able to travel to the integrative medicine clinic for the acupuncture services that we talked about earlier. We can also refer through the team for the music therapy and the massage therapy. So let's move on. And I think we're coming up toward the end, and there it is. And I'm going to leave you with just this one brief story about Reiki, which we also provide in a setting called Healing Oasis. We started this a few years ago, where rather than providing Reiki to our patients, we are providing it to our surviving family members who have lost a loved one through hospice. So our bereavement clients are referred, they come to Healing Oasis every other week, and they receive a treatment. Well, I just want to tell you about this one gentleman who came to us saying he had not been able to sleep since his wife had passed away a number of weeks prior. We gave him his first Reiki treatment. It's only lasted, 20 minutes. He went home and slept for 12 hours. Came back and told us about that the next time. And I can't even begin to tell you how gratifying it is when we know we've been able to help someone. So again, I want to thank Trudy for inviting me to be here, and step back and allow questions for both Heather and myself.
Thank you so much, Judy. I work for Empath Health, and I am a huge advocate for what you do. And I learned a lot more today from not only your presentation about what we offer our patients and opportunities for our staff and volunteers, but the importance of this service and all of what you do for our patients and their families. So thank you for what you do. And Heather, again, learned so much as well. So while I was listening to the presentations, I did check into the chat, and I do want to sincerely thank our veterans who joined us today, and thank you for your service. I wanted to champion everyone on the call today to not only, as you encounter veterans in the community or as a client or a patient, that when we hear about these amazing programs, whether it's the VA or Suncoast Hospice, that we're advocating for people to reach out and learn more. Certainly a phone call to our switchboard at Empath Health to be connected to Judy and her resources, or have a team member come out and work with that family with an informational visit about, is hospice right for you? And a referral to hospice doesn't always have to come from the doctor. If the family is seeing changes and they're concerned about their loved ones, terminal or advanced illness, they can be that advocate. Make that call and learn when hospice can be enacted, so we can access and increase the quality of time that we have with that loved one. Same goes for the VA. I was on a call yesterday, and we were talking about 2/3 of veterans receiving services in the community, and only 1/3 of veterans accessing care through the VA. I mean, that's a big discrepancy. And as you can hear from Heather's program, what an amazing program and resources. And that is just one of many. Then you have the caregiver programs, and you have access to medical equipment, incontinence products, geriatric specialty teams. So many great resources. And one of the things that came up in that call was, oftentimes veterans in the past may have reached out to verify eligibility, and for one reason or another, they may have been told no. And oftentimes that could have been financial, that they made too much money. And there's financial eligibility requirements, and I won't get into the weeds of that. That's a question for the eligibility office at the VA. However, the gist of the conversation was that over time, requirements for eligibility have changed. And I just really want to advocate, as you have that veteran or veteran family in front of you, if they've explored eligibility in the past and been told no, encourage them to revisit that. The reason being, and I'll share a story, at one of our St. Pete coffee groups, I had a husband and wife. The husband is the veteran, Korean era, now has dementia. The wife, 50 plus years married to this gentleman, is his primary caregiver. And the conversation to me was, this gentleman has incontinence and the products are getting expensive. And I asked that question, have you accessed VA for healthcare? Well, we were told no years ago, so we haven't. And because at that time they made too much money, and his healthcare needs weren't where they were at. So they revisited eligibility. Lo and behold, they qualify. So now she's getting caregiver support. He's getting, geriatric specialty care. They can access the whole health if they wanted to, and he's getting those incontinence products. So I really want to kind of champion everybody. We've heard about these amazing programs that I speculate most of us out in the community, most people in the community aren't aware of either. So we kind of, my call to action for everyone today is that we have these conversations. If someone is enrolled at the VA, have you heard about whole health? Or of someone in the community that's dealing with a chronic or advanced illness? Have you had a conversation about, end of life supports and services and that route to Empath Health? But enough of me chatting. I know we had some questions. I know we had a participant had raised a hand, so let's check the Q&A. Nothing in the Q&A, but Atul, is there a way to perhaps unmute Greg and he can ask his question?
Yeah, let me bring him on here. And let's see here. is. Yeah, should be, bring Greg on here.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Mhm.
sir.
Yes, good afternoon. My question is for Ms. Ruiz. When they started this whole health program here in Tampa at James A. Haley, I was one of the vets that actually participated in this program. Now, my question was, every doctor I talked to about my current situation was that all of the programs of all of the participation was either in the mornings or the afternoon, which of course, for some of us that's still out working and not retired, it fell in the middle of the normal work day. And my question to them always was, will the VA ever come up with the programs that people can participate either in the evenings or on the weekend? And at that time frame, the answer was no. So I guess my question is, from the time that they initially started this program, have it evolved to the point that all veterans can't participate in these programs during a normal work day?
So I will tell you that will be VA specific, but here at Bay Pines, we have offered evening programming. We haven't yet ventured into weekend programming within the whole health section of recreation therapy.
Mhm.
Well, that's not true. Let me rephrase that. So with rec therapy, we don't, but our whole health coaches, we do have Saturday, or we did have Saturday opportunities.
Mhm.
The issue becomes is that they're very few. And
Mhm.
so we have to revisit, like, is it worth staffing somebody when we can be more effective and fill a group during the day? But yes, there is always an individual opportunity, because I know we have staff that work evening hours. So for individual programming at Bay Pines, yes, that is an option.
So now the second part to that is, if a veteran is receiving care from James A. Haley, can they participate in these programs at Bay Pine?
You cannot, they have to
Eh,
be
eh,
a
Thank
patient
you.
of the hospital.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah,
Hmm. That was all I had.
yeah.
Hmm.
I know. I wish we could, because Tampa and St. or Bay Pines are so close together, but
Yeah, which is
unfortunately,
kind of hard to understand, because a veteran is a veteran.
mhm.
It shouldn't matter if that veteran received medical care from Bay Pines or Haley, and they are not connected, being this close, which that is a whole nother
I
story.
know.
So
I hear
yeah,
you.
yeah. But thank you for answering my
You're
question.
welcome.
Thank you, Greg, for the question. It was a good one, and thank you for answering on behalf of Bay Pines. And I understand there's different criteria for each healthcare system. I guess I have a follow-up question, and probably for Heather. Community referrals, that came up in a conversation earlier today about acupuncture and veterans being able to receive services from community providers in these instances that Greg explained of not having accessibility in a time frame that works. Can you elaborate on community referrals, and does that fit into some of these modalities that we've dived into today?
Yeah, so the VA does do community referrals, and primary care physicians or the nurses tied to those typically submit those consults. So it's a referral to community care, and then community care coordinates that care. So for acupuncture, I think for massage therapy, you have to qualify. You can't just say, I want it. There has to be a medical need for those types of referrals. But yes, there are certain procedures or I'm blanking on my word here, but that veterans can seek services within the community if it's not offered within the main camp or the hospitals.
Okay. And that would be a conversation with the primary care team again to
Mhm.
initiate and explore
Mhm.
that opportunity.
Yes.
Great. Perfect. Do we have any other questions? I see Jim. I'm going to unmute you, Jim, if you want to go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. do we have to have a VA disability to be able to participate in the whole health program? I am like one of those folks that Trudy was talking about that applied a long time ago and was told no because of my income. And so I never did anything more with it, which I now will follow up, Trudy. But I just wanted to know, do I have to have that disability from the VA to be able to participate?
You only need to be enrolled within Bay Pines healthcare system.
Yeah, I think for clarification purposes, and this was something I learned as I came into my role, and I think is still unclear in the veteran space, is when you think about the VA, you really need to think about it as three-pronged. One is the healthcare system, one is the VBA, which is your benefits, pensions, aid and attendance, disability, and then you have your cemetery. So if someone doesn't qualify for a disability based on their military experience or exposure, it doesn't necessarily preclude them from health care, is my understanding. So you need to really think of those as three distinct prongs or buckets of services. And so what I would encourage anyone on the call, like I said, and as you expressed, Jim, revisit that. If you were told no in the past, things change, finances change, eligibility criteria at a legislative level has changed. And so I would really encourage reaching out to that eligibility office, and they're going to want to have your DD 214. So make sure you have that handy. But so yes, if you qualify for that health care program through the VA, then it would be an easy ask into Heather's program with the whole health.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for the question. It's a good one. All right, any other questions?
No, but if I may, I would just like to embarrass Jim Blinko for a minute and point out to everyone that he is our National Hospice and Palliative Care Veteran Volunteer of the Year, and I am proud to know him.
Absolutely. We are
Jim,
very
you-
blessed. We are very blessed here at Suncoast Hospice to have an amazing group of veteran volunteers who help us in our mission to deliver such care and compassion to our patients and their families. And I see several familiar names in the chat, and very, very grateful to be part of that initiative of honoring our veterans. So,
Amen.
yeah. So I did reference that we do have the Vietnam Veterans Welcome Home event on March 29th. Judy did reference briefly that Alicia Lawler with our Pet Peace of Mind program is going to be one of our co-presenters next month. These briefings are always held the fourth Wednesday of the month from 12 until 1. You would access also recordings of this conversation today, as well as previous conversations through the same link that you registered. And I wanted to share the co-presenter next month. This is a group that I found. It's called Canine Partners for Patriots. They are a nonprofit in Brooksville, and their goal is to match battle buddies, veterans with PTSD to shelter dogs. They find a match and they work with that team of that veteran and that dog to become a service support animal. So really excited to dig into the power of pet therapy, pets emotional, that emotional support piece of things. So very excited and just so thrilled that Heather and Judy, you took time out of your schedules to join us today. I think it's been a really valuable conversation. And to our attendees, thank you so much. Atul,
Sure.
thank you for driving the bus. And
Absolutely. I want to say there's one question in the chat to somebody. Jimmy wanted to get copies of the charts that were referenced in there. Could one of you address that?
Happy to share. No problem.
Okay. All right. So maybe we'll just get the contact information. We can send those on directly to Jimmy then.
Yeah, I think we
Awesome.
can
Okay.
access at the end of the recording, we see the participants. Can we clarify with Jimmy if it is both presenters? Is he still on the line?
Yeah, I'm gonna allow him to talk if he would like. Jimmy, are you there? Yeah, may not be on anymore. Well, we can reference the login and hopefully reach him that way.
Yeah, and we can
Yeah.
send both.
Oh,
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
there he is.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we get charts if possible from both Heather and Julia, and because I volunteer for AmeriCorps, and we started off with the whole health program
mhm.
years ago. And it has changed quite substantially since the pandemic. And so I was very happy to get Ms. Reyes' input on what the nurse, I believe, the nurse side of the medical side of whole health, if I understand it correctly. Are you dealing with the volunteers, or are you dealing basically with the nurses who provide that kind of support, whole health?
The coaches, yes.
Okay. I was hoping I had that correct. But anyway, I just wanted a copy of the charts if it were possible to receive them. You have my email address, my name. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Jimmy, for being here today. And yes, I remember when AmeriCorps was championed with sharing the whole health message. And I agree, it's changed in some ways since COVID, kind of impacted our world the way it did. So I'm so glad that Heather was able to bring us up to speed of the changes and okay. So Greg, Jimmy, and James, I will get those. And yes, we'll get those spreadsheets out today. And don't forget the recording will be accessible through the link here, as well as previous veterans briefings. Lots of great information over the last 2 years that we've shared. So any other questions, concerns? I see people kind of jumping off. So if there's not, I'm just checking super quick. Looks like we're good, but please feel free to reach out to us if you do have a question you'd like to be addressed offline. And again, thank you everyone for joining us today. Heather and Judy, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful session.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.